How's it going, guys? Akde here, and today we are talking about this console right here, the Xbox 360. Now, um, it is its 20th anniversary, right? November 22nd, 2005. That's when the console came out. November 22nd, 2025. 20 years since this console has come out. Yeah, it's crazy how time flies. This generation was a crazy one. Um, because it was the first one ever to last more than 5 years. At least like mainly, right? Prior generations to this ones, they're having consoles that they've lasted them longer than 5 years themselves. But the generation as a whole would last like around 4 or 5 years, right? Some examples would be like the Atari 2600. Even though the second gen lasted, roughly around that same time frame, the 2600 had a lifespan longer, right? 2600 games came out a little bit after the second generation ended and the third generation started. Other examples would be like the PS1 and the PS2. Um, those generations, had ended, but those consoles still had got games, you know, afterwards, right? And support and stuff. And especially the PS2, it had around 13 years of lifespan of getting games and support and manufacturing. Right, the last game for the PS2 was Pro Evolution Soccer 2014 and FIFA 2014. Those are the last two ones, and they came out literally at the very end of 2013. Literally, like probably days or weeks, away from the PS4. So it's kind of insane to think about, right? So, but when I'm talking about generation itself, this one was the longest one. 8 years, which is crazy because the eighth gen was 7 years mostly, right? From 2013 to 2020. This one was '05 to 2013, and yeah, like I said before, I know we had just a few days ago we had the PS3's 19th anniversary, and the Wii also celebrated its 19th anniversary. This one is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and yeah, just like I said in the PS3 video, I grew up with this generation, right? This generation was my childhood, but I was still too young to experience the launch of these consoles, right? The 360, the Wii, PS3. I mentioned before in the PS3 video where I, experienced in terms of seeing it, as an outsider, the releases of like stuff like the PS4, the Wii U, the 3DS, the Switch, right? The PS5. I would see the YouTube videos and live streams of people going and midnight release and getting them, stuff like that. The PS5 case, there was the whole, pandemic that reduced the, lockdown. But that was gonna be my first release ever because at that time I was already an adult. I already had my own money, but that happened. So then I guess it got pushed back, and then my first actual release that I actually went to like a midnight release, was a Switch 2. So yeah, what a long way, right? But yeah, um, when I hopped in, I've said it before in the PS3, right? When I hopped in the PS3, I got one. It was by the time the Super Slim had already come out, and it's definitely far away from its launch, right? Same thing with the 360. By the time I got a 360, the Slim was already out, and they were going crazy in the whole Connect stuff, and I did the Connect one, it was more expensive, and then we were kids, right? And we had to like convince our dad to like buy one, and he ended up getting us a cheaper one, which is the 4 GB 360 Slim, right? So when it comes to like the launch stuff, I've only ever seen it, through people, on YouTube and stuff like that. The whole Xbox documentary, that was pretty cool. I saw how people reacted to the launch, and this basically is a launch console, right? Now this, unlike with the PS3 one where I unboxed and opened up a launch Japanese PS3 that came out in the launch date of November 2006, November 11 specifically in Japan, November 17th in America. This, I believe, is a slight later model, because the console in here was manufactured, I think the date is like something around like 2006, May 2006, I think. But it still has the Blaze dashboards, which is really cool. So The 360 went through different iterations of like their main menu, the dashboards, whatever you want to call it, the UI. Originally, they had the blades from launch '05 all the way to like '08. Then from like '08 to like 11, they had the NXE dashboard. And then from 2011 till now, there's the Metro dashboard. But this one still has the original firmware Blades dashboards that we got at launch. So it's pretty crazy, right? Definitely never connecting it to the internet. Don't want to risk updating it and losing the Blaze dashboard. So yeah, let's get on with it, right? This is a Pro model. Just like with the PS3, the Xbox 360 launched with two models. The PS3 launched with a 20 gigabyte and a 60 gigabyte. The 360 had the Core and the Pro, right? The both of them, unfortunately, did not come with Wi-Fi. The 360 did not have built-in Wi-Fi, not until like the Slim came out. These were obviously susceptible to Red Ring of Death. The fact that this one has survived and not gotten Red Ring of Death is crazy, but you know, hold on to it, right? You know, but yeah, I believe the failure rate is like 57%, something crazy like that, like literally. And then eventually, every console is gonna get Red Ring of Death. It's an eventuality, whether it took a certain console like 2 days or 20 years or 25 years, whatever, right? So yeah, let's get on with it, right? The Pro model, it included a hard drive. It included a wireless controller, no wireless headset. Sorry, it included, I already said a hard drive. Wireless headset, obviously controllers, the headset as well, and they included, what else did it include? Ethernet cord, right? The core didn't include a hard drive. I believe it did not include the wireless headset, and it did not include the Ethernet cord, the Ethernet cable, Ethernet cord, and then the controller. I believe they were wired for the launch models, and yeah, and you got the core model. Since you didn't have a hard drive, you had to either buy one separately or buy memory cards. So yeah. Now here we got the side right here. Side of the console is very cool. We got here screenshots of Halo and other games. Like I see Madden over here, and I believe that's Guitar Hero, if I'm not mistaken, or Rock Band, one of them too. So yeah, and then on the side here, it basically tells you the different models. So you can tell this is a later one because it shows you the option for the 360 Elite, and the Elite did not come out until I believe it's '07, if I'm not mistaken, right? And it also shows you for the arcade. So by the time the 2007 rolled around, the Xbox 360 arcade replaced the core. So the core was a basic model. Then they're like, we're gonna get rid of the core, and then the arcade will become the basic model. Then the 360 Pro is the middleman here, and then the Elite is like the most premium model. But yeah, let's get on with it, right? Open it up here. I've always liked the aesthetic of the OG Xbox 360 more than the Slim. It's just unfortunate that they are less reliable. So for reliability purposes, if you're going back and getting a 360, you're better off getting the Slim, because they're not gonna red ring and freaking explode. But aesthetically, I like, especially the box and like how like the rings, the green, cool rings and stuff, like you see here. Like this is just so cool to me. It's just aesthetically, I like it better than the Slim. And I guess I'm not the only one, because everybody else, when they think of the 360, they think of this. And every time people think of the 360, right? Every time I hear people in retrospective talking about 360, they always talk about this era, like from '05 to like '07, right? Because yeah, this is when it was peak. After like '09, '10, you can start seeing that their focus was Kinect, and they were alienating the core audience that they attracted in the beginning, and that core audience were moving over to PC or PS3. And by the end, the PS3 was the better and more attractive console. But anyways, yeah, look, we got here, get the most out of your Xbox 360, so it's a pretty cool manual. right? Shows cool accessories, stuff like that. Um, typical console show this. The PS3 had its own one where it shows the accessories. The Wii probably shows its own accessories in their manuals, from what I remember. Got this really cool thing that it looks like the Blaze dashboards when you open it up. So that's pretty cool. Importante, lee cuidadosamente. Important, please read. We got more act now to protect your investment on your Xbox 360, right? And it shows cameos. So that's pretty cool at Perfect Dark. But yeah, you see more of like these cool like rings and stuff. The green rings. This is super cool. And then here we have more, like, how do I say it? Just more manual or user guides, whatever they want to call it, right? So yeah, let's just move that to the side over here. We got this over here. I don't know what this is all about. And then we got these sides, more cardboard stuff. Right. So now as we open it up more, right? I don't know if I can show you guys over here. There it is, right? I see. Let me see what I pull out. We got what would be the composite cables. Now, just like the 360 didn't have just like the 360 didn't have Wi-Fi, right? That the PS3 did. Another thing is the original models of 360 did not have HDMI, that the PS3 did. So you had to rock it out with these composite or component cables if you were to buy those separately. From my estimation, I believe the Elite, the 360 Elite came with component cables. So they granted you those instead of composite. But yeah, remember all this is is me from what I've learned retroactively, because I didn't experience this. I experienced unboxing as a kid the Slim, and yeah, and it was the basic model of the Slim at that. It was a 4 gigabyte one. Here we got a headset, right? This is different than the later models. The later model is black, and I believe this volume switch would be moved towards like the middle, So, yeah, from my memory, serves me correctly. So this is like the earlier iteration of the headset. Let's put it back over here. And then we got stuff like there's a power cord and the power cable, right? The external supply. So you got your regular big ass brick. You just need all that stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna put this back because it's just a hassle. So whatever. I was just showing you guys what it would be like. We traveled back, guys, in our time machine. We're back in 05. So yeah. What else? Let's see here. I'll move this out of the way over here. You got a controller. So now as you can see here, this would have been if you had bought it on launch, right? You got the white controller. It looks pretty cool, and you got this really long cord, and it has a detachable right here that the OG Xbox came. So if you ever accidentally so if you ever accidentally trip on the wire and yank it, you don't yank the whole console with it. It just like detaches. So that's pretty cool. It's one of the cool things I like that they had from the OG. That had that feature as well. But yeah. And then last but not least, let's look at the console itself, right? So yeah, this, I believe, let me see the date here. It is, May of 2006. So this is around 6 months after launch. The launch was in November of 2005. But it's basically almost launch, right? Almost a launch console. And you see here it has no HDMI, so you can only do component or composite. It has one USB, one Ethernet in the back, and then the power. And then judging from what it looks like, this is definitely a Xenon motherboard. Xenon motherboard. Here we got obviously the disc tray. the eject button, right, to eject the disc tray. This is the sensor for the remote, right? Sensors. This is the two slots for the memory cards. This is the sync button to sync your controller. The on button, and then you got the two USBs, which the door here is stuck, unfortunately, but whatever. So yeah, it is pretty cool, right? So yeah, that's it. We came on a time machine just to come back and unbox this with you guys because I've totally never played this before, and this is all brand new, right? Because we went back in 2005. But yeah, what else? I guess short synopsis of my thoughts on this console and celebrating its 20th anniversary. Oh yeah, 60 gigabytes by the way. I mean, I like it. It's as you guys saw from my video, it is my number 10th favorite console of all time, right? If we're not including handhelds. If we're including handhelds, it bumps down to 13th place because there are 3 handhelds that occupy that spot. If I include the handhelds that we're talking about. But if we're just talking console, number 10, right? I like it. This is my, well, not this specifically, but 360 in general, right? The Black Slim is my childhood console. But it was one that I wasn't, how do I say this? I wanted it, for example, as a kid, the PS3, because of the exclusive games that I had. We had one, so I just ended up playing what interests me in that console. I had to work with what we got. So stuff like Dragon Ball and stuff like Sonic games and stuff like some GTA stuff. So that was pretty cool in that, right? But yeah, the legacy of this is it's where Microsoft peaked. Microsoft has never been the same ever since. After this, they suck. Hell, even towards the end of this generation, they started to suck because at the end of the generation, the 360 was just a glorified Kinect machine and smart glass machine, and by like 2012, 2013, the 360 was very unattractive. And I think that's when also, not just me, but a lot of people, we were like looking at, eyeing the PS3 and we're like, yo, we want that instead, right? Like, oh, give me that. Last of Us looks so good. Uncharted looks so good. Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, stuff like that. Heavy Rain, all the exclusives that that console had. It would attract more people over there, and people were leaving, they were like, yeah, like we're enough. Like, we don't want to see Kinect, like, sports and Kinect adventures and all these other stuff shoved down our throats. But yeah, there's times where there's weird times where I don't know if I prefer this or the Wii, right? For example, that generation, the PS3 is definitely my favorite console, right? But there's times where I'm like, is this number 2, this number 3? And then I look at the Wii and I'm like, oh, but that has like Galaxy and Brawl and Xenoblade, and I'm like, maybe I like that better. But I think overall I like this one better. Because of, I think, the third-party support, and it actually feels like an actual like console where if I generally want to play something like Red Dead or Portal or GTA, right, it's an actual console that can handle the game and, an actual controller, right? Meanwhile, the Wii is just for first parties, and that's it. Like, try playing Call of Duty on the Wii or any of those shovelware, crappy third-party games. It's not a good time. It's let's just keep it real, right? You only get the Wii for like the first-party exclusive. So with that, I generally I would put the Wii in last place. But there's sometimes where I look at Mario Galaxy and I'm like, ooh, that console is goated. But yeah, I'll never like this as much as a PS3. I'll just say it as that. I am one of those weirdos that I like the OG Xbox slightly more than this one because the OG Xbox, it has very Sega vibes, Sega Dreamcast vibes, because a lot of the unfinished games that were supposed to come out for the Dreamcast, and didn't come out because the Dreamcast, ceased to exist. They came out on the OG Xbox, so you got on top of that, right? So the OG Xbox feels like a Dreamcast 2, and on top of Microsoft's exclusives being more unique and more creative, makes me like the OG Xbox a little more than this one. Even though this one, at least towards the beginning, it had those unique creative exclusives, right? Like Cameo, and we had Viva Pinata, and etc. Crackdown, all those cool stuff that we unfortunately uh, didn't get in the later, because towards the end of this, it was like I said, it was just Connect, and then like Halo 4, and Halo 4 is right. um, but yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I know that the majority of these people are very fond of this console. I know that in mainstream media and amongst the casuals, and when I mean casuals, I mean people who only play, Call of Duty and sports games, right? Every year, this is what people think of when they think of the seventh generation. But there's a lot of misconceptions about this console, that it's not all tinted, rose tinted glasses of nostalgia. People think about this console actually has way more problems than people remember it does. This console isn't as good as you remember it, and this is, and I know I'm sounding like even though I prefer the PS3, I'm trying to be objective here. I think towards the end of the generation, the PS3 is the better console, and it was the best console of that generation. But this was definitely a close second, and even the sales numbers say that too, right? This was 84 million units sold, and the PS3 was 87 million units sold. So the PS3 also 360 by 3 million, which in retrospective, 3 million is a lot, but then when you look at it, both numbers, it's not. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, but what it is, right? I like this console, but I can criticize it, right? That just means that I like the console enough to see its flaws and work through its flaws and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, guys, let me know what you guys think. I know the comment sections here are gonna love this console. I mean, hey, I love this console. It's my number 10 favorite, right? Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys happy? Are you celebrating your 20th anniversary of your 360? If your 360 has not red ring, go play it and celebrate the 20th anniversary. Now, I gotta go text my friends in this crappy Sidekick type phone, because we're in 2005, and tell them to get online on Xbox Live, because yeah, I kind of want to play online with them. And I know his 360 red ring, so he has to get a new one. Yeah. Alright, guys, thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.